Time now for our final panel discussion of the evening. We're talking about lessons from crisis coverage. And I'm so delighted to welcome on stage Deborah Steele, ABU Director of News. Let us put our hands together for her because, ladies and gentlemen, she's really been the force behind to put this wonderful conference together. So let us extract our last bit of energy, put our hands together for Deborah and the panelists who join her. Mr. Prafulla Ketkar, Senior Journalist, Ms. Pham Linh, Reporter and Anchor at VTV Vietnam, Abdullah Mamun, News Producer at Bangladesh Television, and Ms. Frances Toral, Head of News Production at ABS-CBN, Philippines. Deborah, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Ubendu. It does feel like evening, doesn't it? It's been a long day. Thank you very much for your patience. And excellent. So we're going to keep this discussion quite short. It's not going to be like the other panel discussions because we have a couple of more things that we want to show you before we end for the day. And then the room will be rearranged for the glorious, the spectacular Asia Vision Awards this evening. So let's go straight into our discussion. And then let's start with you. When we look at lessons for disaster coverage, what do you think are the key ingredients?
First of all, I want to introduce Lina from Vietnam Television. We're a national broadcaster. Vietnam is a country prone to climate change. We experience a lot of floodings, a lot of rains, and recently saline intrusion due to the change in the Mekong Delta. So in terms of delivering news in crisis, I think there are two major types in Vietnam: climate change and COVID. We talked a lot about COVID already, so I want to focus on climate change. Lessons learned. Our colleagues here talked a lot about the responsibility, being accountability, and then neutrality and objective. But I think for Vietnam Television, we just ask ourselves one question: how can we be helpful? And our stakeholders are the audience and the government. Because in times of crisis, we face it the first time, the government, our audience, and ourselves. So I think just try to be helpful. And with that, we send our best reporters to report from field. Of course, with that, we must feel empathy for the people, trying to be helpful for them and for the government as well. Because we understand that the government also needs our input, our information, which we get from our audience, we get from our sources. And with that, we can feed them with the correct information, and then they can adjust their policies and be helpful to their citizens. So that's our lesson learned from this.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you.
Mamun, what's the approach at BTV in Bangladesh in balancing the needs of the audience, the needs of the national interest, and the government messaging? How do you balance those areas?
Well, as we are a public service broadcaster, we had a lot of responsibilities from the government side, and on the same time, we had to look after the need of the people. So during the COVID crisis, we've always focused on the true message, so that we can provide the true message to the people, so that lot of rumors were spreading during the COVID period, and government have some instruction. We always focus on the government information to the people, and on the same time, what people are, what people need, we directly went to them and looking for their demand, what they want actually. So we are trying to balance from the both sides. Thank you.
How important do you think the pictures are in crisis coverage, particularly in Bangladesh when you are faced with so many floods? How important are the pictures in telling the story?
Yeah, in television, picture is always very important. So there is a saying, one picture tells 100 words. So we always try to pick up the right picture. Bangladesh is a disaster-prone country, especially in our coastal areas. A lot of people are living there. So we always set up our coverage team to the coastal areas so that we can get the touchy picture of the crisis moment. And if we provide the touchy picture, then it will attract people more, and government will be alert, and the audience will also be alert by the picture. So I think picture is very important on television. Thank you.
Francis, on digital platforms, how important are the pictures, and how do you digest that information, distill it for social media platforms?
Yes. On digital, it's of utmost importance to have visuals when you have crisis coverage. But we have a mantra in our newsroom that we'd rather be right than first. So this year, we had a very huge earthquake in the northern part of the country. And in a few minutes, there were photos coming in of destroyed buildings and homes, and we couldn't put that to air, and we couldn't upload it right away without first vetting, are these pictures accurate and correct and true enough? There were some photos of previous earthquakes that some netizens or social media people uploaded to confuse people and to maybe be viral. That's very important. Be right than be first. Also, in our newsroom, safety first. How do you balance being safe out there and delivering the news? During the height of Typhoon Haiyan, one of the strongest typhoons to ever hit the earth, our reporter was right there in the middle, in the eye of the storm, reporting. And you know, when we hired a meteorologist later on, he said if he was in the newsroom, he would not have allowed it because he risked his life just to deliver the news. So striking that delicate balance between being safe out there and delivering the news, we have to achieve that at all times to deliver the visuals and the story.
Thank you. Prafulla, what's your take on this? What would you like to see more of and less of in crisis coverage?
I think, I will share 3 of my experiences. And that will tell you how we have moved on or changed, or actually I would call it a kind of, in a way, crisis for media, simply because the social media, earlier it was the print and the electronic that was guiding social media. It is now the other way around. Social media is influencing the print and the electronic coverage. And that has become a big challenge. When I started as a young journalist, that was an earthquake in Gujarat. And I remember, the ground level reporting about that, which was much more responsible, much more poised, talking about the actual situation, even the fight back by the people, reconstruction work. So it was giving much and much hope. In 2005-06, when the electronic media was at its peak when it comes to the breaking news business, and I'm deliberately calling it a breaking news business, because there, in India especially, there was a lot of competition. And I remember one attack, terror attack in Mumbai. I was right there on the station which was being reported being, having a bomb blast. In front of my, television was going on and reporting that the same station is being blown, which was completely a false news. And then come to the third scenario, where in Kerala, there was a flood situation a couple of years back, before, pre-COVID, 2017-18. And, there were extreme positions that were taken from the day, or from the moment go. And rather than talking about the flood situation, about the disaster management work, and how people are being rescued, from the moment go, the discussion was about who is responsible for this and who is handling this better. So many a times, we talk about the threat of fake news. I believe that a news cannot be fake. If it is fake, it can't be a news. I think the real crisis is of fake narratives. When you have taken the preposition and then you assume that if such and such political dispensation is in power, then they are bound to do this, or they will not do this, then you are in a problematic situation as far as media is concerned. So I think we are going through a very delicate, transformative phase as far as media is concerned. And especially in the crisis situation, because I have covered even the difficult territory of Jammu Kashmir, and then Sakal is here, and she has also covered it very extensively. And there, the real story of victims is always killed by this business of building narratives before the news. So I think this is the biggest lesson I would draw, that news is important, narratives come later.
So on that point, and to you, Francis, on the issue of fake narratives, have some media organisations done themselves and the industry a disservice by calling every event a disaster, by making everything breaking news, a news alert, dramatising news developments, using straps all over the screen?
Well, in the Philippine scenario, mainstream media is being challenged by vloggers and other social media personalities who are not really journalists but post themselves as journalists and make news that are either slanted towards someone or some organization or utterly false. So that's the scenario right now. Mainstream media in the Philippines has been very responsible, but the challenge really is the trolls, the bashers, and to a certain extent, some vloggers who use false reports.
Mamun, is it an issue in Bangladesh of stories being dramatized and everything being described as breaking news?
Yeah, you're right. In Bangladesh, the mainstream media also did the same thing. They always try to dramatize the news so that their TRP can increase. And if we talk about the social media, they are totally irresponsible in our country. So, but it is unfortunate that when some mainstream media is on the queue to dramatize some stories, sometimes they are fake, their information is fake. Even we have many examples when they're going on air, some celebrity has died without checking any reality. They just hear somewhere that somebody has died. They are going on air with the breaking news that somebody has died. And we have an interesting story in our country. Some film star was watching television and seeing that he has died. and he called that television station that I am still alive, I am not dying. So this type of things happened in our country, especially the private television stations did so. But on the same time, we have some responsible stations as well. That is why they are very popular. So I think that situation in country, we should learn many things from this type of news. Thank you.
Linh, what does VTV do to prepare for disaster coverage?
I think we plan, and then, for example, let's say COVID, when it broke out, we deployed our best guys to the COVID hotspots, and we aim not to just produce short reports, but we want to do documentary. Why? Because we think that documentary, when we send our crew there and they stay in hospital, they eat, they were around the COVID patients, then they can dig out more in-depth stories. And I think that's the essence of news, because not just talking about what, where, when, how. I think the more important role of news is to kind of help the audience navigate through crisis, to disasters, to changes. And then the essence of it is to spread humanity, I think. So that's why I think we aim to documentary, and from documentary then we can do many short reports. That's our approach. Because we have that kind of long-term vision, so we just did what we had to do, and all of the reporters, we also went back to our family, talked to our husband, wife, and explained to them why we had to do what we had to do, and then just go and just do it. You know, Vietnamese people, we are famous for being resilient and flexible. So when a crisis happens, we don't really question much. We just do our best and try to get the most out of it. So that's how we handle things.
Thank you. Prafulla, to finish, what changes would you like to see in the way Indian news organizations cover crises?
I think when we are talking about crisis coverage, there is another crisis we must ponder over, and that is credibility crisis. You know, the credibility crisis that media is facing. Because now everyone having access to a smartphone with a WhatsApp app is virtually acting as a communicator in some form or the other. And that's why disseminating information very irresponsibly many a times without having a formal training of cross-checking, fact-checking, or verifying through various sources. So I think in this situation, the role of trained journalist has become much more important. So I think entire society is going through this, cycle of imploded information, and therefore this rat race for being first with breaking news. So we need to develop this credibility index of media. Especially during the crisis situation, it is much more important. We have seen that during the COVID scenario, that at times media coverage was much more panicking rather than informing, helping, as she said. So I would suggest that because I come basically from the print industry, and in print, the basic thing that you follow is, before going for the print, you reread your story. You edit it. So I think that gives it, the weightage, the coverage, the longevity. I would suggest, we need to train journalists instead of getting into this, rat race, how to educate the society being more responsible as far as verifying facts are concerned. What can be the easiest tools they can use to do that? How we can be a very responsible social media. And at the international level also, as I think in earlier session Kanchanda was talking about, we need a kind of comprehensive international, and this kind of forum is very useful for that, that we need a comprehensive kind of charter, not just charter, maybe we have something like, comprehensive guidelines under Press Council Act for the media. Earlier and in print many a times we even follow today how to mention community if there is a riot-like or violence-like situation, how to report a particular incident without mentioning caste or community, and still it can be very indicative. So it is a very responsible kind of reporting. Social media has completely sidelined that. Now how to take those guidelines to the digital level is going to be a real challenge for the entire world. And I believe, this kind of platform should come up with some kind of broad guidelines for digital platforms which will be applicable not just in India, but all over the world.
A hard thing to do when everyone becomes a journalist if they're on the scene of a crisis. I'd like to thank the panel, Francis, Mamun, Linh, Prafulla, thank you very, very much.